I almost regret that you are defenseless, Batman.
Superhuman strength works well and good, but Batman mythos has proved just how extraordinary the power of the mind can be. However, when you are Bane, you don't have to worry about lacking either. This supervillain slash assassin was created by Doug Moench, Chuck Dixon, and Graham Nolan. Turned into a super soldier following an experiment with the drug known as Venom, Bane left the prison facility he was born in and arrived at Gotham City, where his life got entangled with that of Gotham's nocturnal king. As such, Bane wished to dethrone this king, which did happen on a few occasions, but he eventually lost the throne to Batman again. Unusual life circumstances have also altered his motives from time to time, turning him from a villain to an ally of Batman and back to a villain. In today's video, we will get down to the details of Bane's early life and his altercations with Batman across different storylines. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a whole lot. So thank you, and let's get into it.
You've got nothing. Beg for mercy. Scream my name!
Bane's tragic backstory explored. Fish cannot climb trees, birds cannot speak Mandarin, and characters in Batman cannot have happy origin stories. Of course, Bane, a notorious antagonist from Batman's legendary gallery of rogues, has had it rough from the start. Before we talk about Bane, let's talk about his family and place of origin. Santa Prisca, an island in the Caribbean Sea, was known for the constant political unrest it was under, thanks to its corrupt government that made the island a perfect haven for criminals. Naturally, there were revolutionaries who revolted against the reigning system, but the major coup that they had conducted ended up in a failure. While many were massacred and slaughtered, those who survived were sent to Peñadero, a prison facility, and among them was a pregnant woman who had allegedly lost her husband to the slaughter. Santa Prisca had a strange law where a father's punishment had to be fulfilled and served by his son if the father failed to complete his sentence. Unfortunately, the woman in the prison was pregnant with a male child. No prizes for guessing who it was. Bane was born in prison and raised in prison. He never got to meet his father naturally and was nurtured in the deep pits of Peñadero. You'd expect things to be slightly better for him since his mother was there, but nope. When he was only 6, his mother passed away due to her despair and physical exhaustion, but it did not end there. The merciless prison guards disposed of her body by throwing it into Santa Prisca's shark-infested waters. To add to the cherry on top, Bane had to witness this atrocity. Only 6 years old, imprisoned and orphaned, Bane fell victim to the other inmates of the prison. But with no one to protect him from the predators, Bane grew stronger to survive and thrash in this harsh life. He committed his first murder during his adolescent years, albeit in retaliation. It earned him the moniker of Bane from the prison warden. He grew stronger and smarter with time and eventually began to gain respect in the facility. He honed his physical strength and mental prowess to its peak with meditation, study, and exercise. Bane found his allies in an American man named Bird, a physician who went by the name Zombie, and a man named Trog. They also pledged their loyalty to Bane after recognizing his strength. Gradually, he became Peñadero's top dog, or rather, its king. He was feared so much that the prisoners who followed him feared Bane more than they feared the prison warden, and its imbalance in power was something the warden himself had noticed. As such, he shifted Bane to solitary confinement for 10 entire years, hoping to bring the morale of the prisoners down. Unfortunately for the warden, Bane's sad life story, taking a turn for the worse, only helped his reputation. He gained greater respect, to the point that by the time Bane was released from the confined state, he was considered to be a legend in Peñadero. But now that Bane was back and he was stronger than ever before, the warden interfered once again and decided to eradicate him once and for all. An easy way out of the mess was by subjecting Bane to a scientific experiment that was likely to kill him, and that was exactly how Bane became the guinea pig for a research team based in the prison. They had crafted a steroid known as Venom. However, they had tried the compound on several people and none of them survived its effects. With Bane set to be the next victim, the warden was sure of his impending death, except that did not happen. While Bane was believed to be dead, the warden got his body tossed into the sea, but the drug had amped up his physical stats by increasing his muscles, strength, endurance, and stamina. As such, Bane was able to evade death by freeing himself. And with his newfound strength, he was unstoppable. Bane returned to prison, took the warden hostage, and got his hands on an army helicopter for his escape. He banded up with his friends Bird, Trog, and Zombie, killed the warden, and finally headed away from the miserable island of Santa Prisca.
I will allow you the pleasure of throwing the mask from Batman's decimated face.
Soon, Bane locked his sights on Gotham City, the hometown of Bird, and the place with its very own nocturnal king, Batman. As Bane wanted to prove his superiority over all men, he intended to dethrone Batman by finding and destroying him. He had also been haunted by a demonic bat in his nightmares since childhood, which was one of his greatest weaknesses. The knowledge of Batman's existence helped him realize that it was his destiny to dethrone the bat, or so he assumed. It was clearly a premonition of sorts. Bane kickstarted his criminal career in Gotham by helping his friend Bird get revenge on an old foe. He then killed the Manklin family to establish his name in Gotham's underworld and get Batman's attention. Fortunately for Bane, it worked, and he was able to get to Batman. But after analyzing the Dark Knight, he realized that he was not ready to fight him and postponed their duel for dominance over Gotham City. Bane was clearly aware of the negative implications that would come with a direct assault on Batman, and with his shrewd mind, he knew how to keep himself out of trouble. As such, he took a more complicated route. He destroyed the walls of Arkham Asylum, allowing some of Batman's most notorious foes, such as the Joker, Two-Face, the Mad Hatter, Scarecrow, Zsasz, Firefly, and the ventriloquist to escape. Batman had his hands full because of the situation, spent the next few months tracking down the escapees and rounding them up. While he was exhausted with the work at hand and out of business in Gotham City for the same, Bane consolidated his position in the city's underground scene. Following the arrival of Batman, Bane used Bird, Zombie, and Trog to get Batman, which the Caped Crusader managed to win over but with great difficulty. The next challenge, however, was destined to be a disaster for Gotham City's reigning king. One day after returning to Wayne Manor, Batman found Bane waiting for him for a fight. The fight was quite one-sided, thanks to Batman being out of juice due to his exhaustion. Ultimately, Bane broke Batman's back, which paralyzed his lower body. Even though it may sound like Bane only won because he got an advantage of the weakened and exhausted Batman, the fight was actually a fair one, precisely because Bane was more than his brawn. He also had his brains, and he used his very intellect to wring the energy and life out of Batman before fighting him. With Batman out of the game, Gotham City had a new king. Bane ruled the criminal underworld, and no other villain dared challenge his throne. Meanwhile, an out-of-action Bruce Wayne passed down the Batman mantle to Jean-Paul Valley, or Azrael. Azrael used a combat suit to engage Bane in a fight once again, and instead of focusing on the battle of fists, Azrael severed the connection between Bane and the tubes that pumped venom into the villain's bloodstream and made him stronger. Now that Bane had been weakened not just by the severed connection, but also by the onset of terrible withdrawals, Azrael took advantage of the situation to beat Bane to a near-death situation. Ultimately, he was left alive, but he was completely broken. Bane eventually sought out rehabilitation in Blackgate Penitentiary to beat his addiction to venom. Now slightly more reformed, Bane learned that his father was still alive, and as such, wished to uncover his identity. He found a new purpose in his life. He also went on to pair up with a rejuvenated Batman to fight off bank robbers who had been strengthened by venom, the very drug that Bane had fought against after his long-term addiction. Things we know about Bane's drug, venom. Bane's connection to the dangerous steroid known as venom has been solidified, but he was not the first person to be addicted to it. Before the character even existed, the drug fell into the hands of Batman during an investigation. Around that time, the Dark Knight was dealing with mental images of his body having limitations that he was tied to. As such, a drug that boosted his physical abilities beyond belief came to him as a clear water in a barren desert. However, Batman developed a venom addiction to the point that Alfred left him and he sabotaged an investigation because he was lured away by the venom. That was the last straw, and he ended up contacting Alfred. He requested his trusted butler to not let him leave the Batcave for 2 months. Thankfully, he came out of the mess cleaner and stronger. This super steroid, which was able to weaken a man like Batman, was based on Bannerman Pharmaceuticals' Miraclo formula, a drug that can give its user super strength and vigor for an hour. A variant of the steroid was also used by Lex Luthor later in the Superman-Batman story arc. A huge problem with the super steroid lies with the way that the body has to absorb it. Bane dons a mask with tubes attached to it. These tubes connect to his neck and they constantly supply him with venom, which is the way one needs to take venom to be consistently jacked in strength. Failure to do so results in terrifying withdrawals and hallucinations. Bane also uses a button to increase this venom whenever he feels like he needs a bigger kick of strength. It can make Bane stronger than superhumans as well, which was certified after he managed to defeat Killer Croc. But then, Croc was really lacking in the intelligence department. This venom, however, seems to be different from the one Batman had used, in the sense that Batman consumed it like an ordinary drug without the whole fiasco with the pipes in the neck. In a different situation, Bane had weakened the dose of the steroid and given it to the Riddler, who then used it to fight an exhausted Batman. It could have ended with the Riddler exterminating Batman, but in the nick of time, Bane came to the Dark Knight's rescue as he needed him alive to get his revenge in the coming future. Bane and Batman, the animated series. Batman, the animated series, has easily been one of the most successful ventures of the Batman storyline. It has featured a multitude of antagonists from Batman's roster of villains, and as such, Bane has also appeared and left his mark in the acclaimed series. Bane made his appearance in the first episode of the cartoon's 3rd season as the main villain of the episode. Rupert Thorne, a prolific crime lord in Gotham City, had grown frustrated with being crossed by Batman over and over again, which drove him to seek out Bane to get rid of his nemesis for good, bringing the venom-powered antagonist into the picture. Bane was more than just a guy with abnormally high strength. He was not the impulsive type, and as such did not wish to rush to defeat Batman. He wanted to take his time, learn the Dark Knight's fighting style, and then defeat him. To do that, he tailed Killer Croc, who was on the run from Batman and Robin. Bane later caught up with the Croc and beat him down brutally. He also smashed the front of the Batmobile with nothing but his bare hands. Croc was later taken to Arkham and inquired about the attack. Following the description he had given about the buff man having tubes wired into his head, Batman was able to trace the description to something known as Project Gilgamesh. This project had started off in the Cuban prison as a scientific experiment that was set to create super soldiers. Bane was the product of Project Gilgamesh and worked as an assassin with a super high fee. This also led Batman to realize that Rupert Thorne was the only one who could afford to pay such a high fee. Meanwhile, Bane grew closer to Thorne's secretary Candace, and the two plotted together to kill Thorne. They wished to overthrow him and take over his empire, but they were oblivious to Robin, who was spying on them. However, this changed soon enough, and Robin was left to deal with a rooftop chase with Bane at his tail. Even though Robin fared well in the start, he was eventually knocked out. Batman trailed Candace and spoke to her about Bane. She revealed that he had dreams of defeating Batman when the latter learned of Bane having kidnapped his partner, prompting the hero to reach the site of action. Bane engaged Batman in a fight while Batman tried to save Robin. He almost did it, but Bane's brute strength prevented him from taking care of the situation smoothly. Soon after, Robin was thrown into the pool while Candace geared up to kill him. On the other end, Bane tried to force Batman to beg for mercy, but despite being physically inconvenienced, In this fight, Batman did not yield to those atrocious demands. Batman then used his brains to turn the game around. He overfed Bane with venom, inflating him, but then he immediately severed the villain's ties with the tubes. Without the drug pump, Bane literally deflated once he stopped getting venom. A weakened Bane was then carried to Thorne's office, and an audio recording of his conversation with Candace was played to the criminal, turning Thorne against the two of them.
Oh, your buddy!
Bane in The Dark Knight Rises, 2012. Bane also appeared in the esteemed Batman trilogy by Christopher Nolan, popularly known as the Dark Knight trilogy. The third installment from the trilogy, 2012's The Dark Knight Rises, featured Bane in an important antagonistic role, who gave the trilogy one of the most iconic scenes. The role was spectacularly portrayed by Tom Hardy. The film kicked off with the CIA trying to extract a physicist named Leonid Pavel in Uzbekistan. The prisoner called Bane and his men joined the fight with Pavel present in it. Meanwhile, another plane caused the CIA's plane's wing to snap off, making it crash into the mountains to help stage Pavel's death. 8 years passed by following the events of The Dark Knight. Gotham City was at peace, and Batman had stopped being the city's protector following the death of Harvey Dent. Meanwhile, Jim Gordon had been able to get rid of organized crime from the face of Gotham City. However, he regretted covering up for Dent's crimes and not coming clean to the public about it. As a function aimed at celebrating Dent came closer, Gordon decided to spill the truth about Dent's criminal endeavors. But ultimately, he chose not to do so in order to prevent unrest in Gotham City. However, Bane got his hands on Gordon's speech and shot him, causing Gordon to get hospitalized. Meanwhile, Gordon promoted John Blake, who now had to report to Gordon directly. Gordon and Blake ended up learning of Bruce Wayne's true identity and tried to convince him to return despite his retirement. On the other hand, Bane attacked Gotham's stock exchange and used Bruce Wayne's stolen fingerprints to bet on risky investments in his name. Batman tracked down Bane and found him in the sewers, where Bane claimed to be there to fulfill Ra's al Ghul's destiny, who wished to eliminate most of humanity to attain environmental balance. Bane had been linked with Ra's al Ghul several times in the comics as well. In fact, Ray wanted Talia to marry Bane, but she only went along with their fling to make Batman jealous. Back to the movie though. Bruce and Bane fought a one-on-one battle which turned out to be way too one-sided. Batman, who was out of action for years, could barely keep up against Bane. The scene was renowned for its iconic monologue, where Bane was unable to choose between what would break first in Batman, his spirit or his body. As he said those words, he picked Batman up and broke his backbone by bringing down his body onto his knee. Batman was then sent to the pit so that he could never, ever escape again. During this time, Bane got rid of Gotham City's police force and set off explosions around the city, making it an isolated city-state, to the point that attempting to escape would cause a nuclear bomb to detonate. Bane then killed Pavel in front of the people and revealed the truth about Harvey Dent. Meanwhile, Batman gradually kept training for months and escaped from Ra's al Ghul's prison. He then banded up with Blake, Selina, Kyle, Gordon, Miranda, and Lucius Fox to stop the previously instigated nuclear bomb. Batman went on to fight Bane once again, and this time almost won until he got stabbed in the back by Miranda, who was actually Talia al Ghul in disguise. What makes Bane so deadly? Bane has been a formidable foe to the Dark Knight for a substantial amount of time now. Thanks to his strength and intellect, Bane was able to keep the Bat cornered for long, proving how lethal an opponent he can be. Bane possesses superhuman strength, speed, endurance, and durability thanks to his super steroid Venom. This steroid also enhances his physical appearance, making him much bigger and buffer than a human can normally be. The amount of venom injected into his bloodstream has an impact on his strength level, and Bane has maxed out on it several times. However, when the drug is taken beyond the limit of how much the body can handle, Bane ends up temporarily losing his sanity. Other than that, Bane gets a generous stamina boost and can withstand most physical attacks, especially if it is blunt force. However, the drug does not make him bulletproof. Fortunately for him, Batman doesn't use guns. With these many physical amps, Bane also gets the ability to heal himself from injuries, toxins, diseases, and other kinds of infections. Another trait Bane is renowned for is his genius-level intellect, making him a great strategist. He can memorize anything, and also has a great knowledge of medicine, the sciences, geology, and history, among several other subjects. He can also fluently speak English, Spanish, French, German, Mandarin, and the list goes on and on. Bane can also outdo Batman and Nightwing when it comes to infiltration and escape. As a hand-to-hand combatant, he also shows his prowess against Batman and Ra's al Ghul with his versatile fighting style. Bane has often used his various abilities to carry out some of the most dangerous tasks. Apart from being addicted to Venom, he has also dealt in the dangerous drug from time to time. He has been able to nearly kill the Robins. After suffering a terrible defeat to Batman and Catwoman, things got a tad personal for Bane, prompting him to take the lives of Bruce Wayne's loved ones, which naturally brought the Robins under Bane's radar. Since Bane was only trying to send a message, the Robins did not die. However, the incident shed light into how ruthless Bane can be. On another occasion, he got Dick Grayson shot using the service of KG Beast. To top it all off, Bane killed Alfred in the end of the City of Bane storyline. He did it to show off his prowess in front of the Dark Knight, and boy did it work. Batman lost his father figure and greatest support, which broke him. The fact that Alfred basically chose to sacrifice himself to not become the liability for villains to use against the Dark Knight made this incident a whole lot more sad. Interesting facts about Bane. As a character, Bane has found himself in a fair share of story arcs, some of which tied his roots with that of Batman's. Number 1. Bane made his film debut in Batman and Robin. Batman and Robin is remembered as one of the worst Batman movies. Out of the many things that made the movie terrible, Bane being turned into a mindless, brute force-oriented, sidelined lackey to Poison Ivy was easily one of the worst. The fact that it was his film debut made it even more terrible. Number 2. Batman took 3.5 years to defeat Bane in combat. By 3.5 years, we do mean comic time. Bane made his comic appearance in January 1993, but it was in September 1996's 701st issue of DC Comics that Batman was able to beat Bane in a one-on-one combat. Previously, the Dark Knight had had his back broken by the antagonist and was involuntarily benched to the sidelines, making the wait and the fruit from it all the more sweet for the readers. Number 3. Bane once believed that Dr. Thomas Wayne was his father. Bane has attempted to reunite with his biological father in the past. He had found out about 4 such men who could have been his father. One of those men happened to be Dr. Thomas Wayne, that is, the father of Batman. The Dark Knight helped him out with his investigation and DNA tests, but Bane was fortunately not Dr. Wayne's child. In fact, his father was revealed to be Edmund Dorrance, also known as King Snake. Number 4. Bane led Santa Prisca to democracy and a civil war. In the 2006 storyline known as The Venom Connection, Bane returned to Santa Prisca and got his hands on a more addictive strain of venom. He wound up leading the country to its democratic elections, but soon learned that it was all rigged. As such, he enforced martial law upon the island, and the place soon entered a state of civil war. Number 5. Bane was a professional dictator. DC's parallel universe, time travel, and multiverse allows one character to have several interpretations. As such, in alternate reality, Bane was made to be a professional wrestler and the dictator in Skull City, Mexico. Number 6. Bane has been a part of the infamous Suicide Squad. The ragtag supervillain team of Suicide Squad has hosted some of Batman's most well-renowned villains, such as Harley Quinn and Deadshot. During the Raise the Flag miniseries, Amanda Waller recruited Bane to be a part of the squad. What was funny in the DC Extended Universe movie was the fact that Colonel Rick Flag, the man in charge of keeping the Suicide Squad in line, was played by Rick Flag, who had played Bane in Nolan's Nolan's The Dark Knight Rises. What was even stranger was Tom Hardy being the protagonist in Marvel's live-action Venom, which was kind of similar to Bane's super steroid of choice in the sense that it gave the user's physical stats a major boost and had the same name. Frightening appearances of Bane in other media. As a character with a high name value in the Batman franchise, Bane has made appearances in several forms of media, ranging from animation to live action. Some of his live action appearances, aside from Batman and Robin and The Dark Knight Rises, have been in CW's Arrowverse during its Elseworlds crossover event. He also appeared in the live action drama Gotham in its 5th season as Eduardo Dorrance. In this episode, Gotham City had been rendered into a no man's land while Dorrance got impaled on a pipe, courtesy Jim Gordon. He was later revived by Nisa Al Ghul and reborn as Bane, who ended up taking control of Gotham City Police Department and the military, but ultimately he was arrested. Bane made several appearances in the realm of animation as well, starting with Batman the Animated Series, which we have already spoken about. He returned in the new Batman Adventures, surprisingly with an American accent instead of his English accent. Here, he mostly appeared in Barbara Gordon's visions after she was affected by the Scarecrow's fear toxin. Bane also made an appearance in Superman, the animated series, where he conspired with the Mad Hatter and the Riddler to take advantage of Batman's absence and take over Gotham City. Too bad his adversary turned out to be Superman himself. There was not a lot Venom could do against a god, essentially. Bane also appeared in the animated film Batman: Mystery of the Batwoman, where he managed to capture Batwoman and severely injure Batman. His connection to Venom was later severed as he plummeted into a pit of fire. However, he did not die from it since he was able to make a cameo in Batman Beyond. In this, Bane was frail and sickly, reliant on a constant supply of oxygen and a mild dose of venom just to stay alive. Batman, who had retired, still kept tabs on Bane while the latter sold venom as patches that were distributed on the streets of Gotham. Bane also appeared in The Batman, Batman the Brave and the Bold, Young Justice, Justice League Action, Justice League Doom, Superman Batman, Public Enemies, Batman Assault on Arkham, Batman Hush, Batman Ninja, Harley Quinn, and DC Superhero Girls, among several others as well.
I'm here for Two-Face. He's clearly running this operation.
What? Oh!
Marvelous verdict. Despite the impact Bane has had on Batman, several fans of the franchise do not consider him to be an A-list villain who can share the table with the likes of the Joker, Penguin, the Riddler, and even Harley Quinn. This is possibly due to Bane often flip-flopping from being a villain to being an ally of Batman and the occasional anti-hero. However, he is a very important character in his own right and has made his place in Batman's rogue gallery prominent enough within a shorter time span, considering the likes of most of the other villains getting 60 to 70 years of time to expand their stories since their debut. In fact, the success of Bane's character in The Dark Knight Rises catapulted him into the heights of his popularity. Hey, if you liked our content and you want to see more similar content in the future, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. And in the meantime, have a good one and be safe, and we will see you next time. Thank you, everybody.
Then I will break you.